This is Cape Chronicle. I'm Jacob McClellan. In an effort to thwart methamphetamine production, the Cape Girardeau City Council passed an ordinance that requires a prescription in order to buy meth precursors like ephedrine and pseudoephedrine. That ordinance passed about 18 months ago. How has this affected law enforcement in Cape Girardeau? I'm joined now by Officer Darin Hickey with the Cape Girardeau Police Department. Officer Hickey, thank you so much for coming by.
Thanks for having me.
First, the methamphetamine precursor law. How has this affected methamphetamine production here in Cape Girardeau?
You know, that's a tough question to answer because it's hard to be a measurable result. We do feel that it has been a positive effect. Anything that is going to attempt to curb that production of methamphetamine is going to be a positive, no matter whether we can measure it or not.
Now, to me, it seems like meth producers are always finding new ways to produce this drug, and lately it's the shake and bake method. Is this something that we've been seeing here in Cape Girardeau as well?
Unfortunately, it is. It's also called the one pop method. It's where it's basically not the old way of manufacturing meth. They don't need all the chemicals. They don't need all the jars. They're only using one bottle. They're putting all the ingredients in one bottle. They shake it up basically, and it starts all the chemical reactions, and then they slowly manufacture it that way. It's a very dangerous product. It's a very dangerous way to do it. And unfortunately, we are seeing it even more and more all the time here.
What are some of the dangers that are involved with this? It seems like an incredibly volatile process.
It is, because you're dealing with chemicals. You're dealing with chemical reactions. You're dealing with fumes that are coming off of these, and you don't know what they're doing. You don't know what it's actually could possibly explode, burn. It sometimes melts plastic. So when you start dealing with chemical reactions that do those kind of things, you really have to be careful.
Now, we've been talking a lot, obviously, about methamphetamines. Is that still one of the more common drugs that's found here in the city?
It is. We do see methamphetamine. We also see crack cocaine, powder cocaine, marijuana, and then there's lots of different drugs, but those are the main ones we're seeing right now.
What are some of the telltale signs that somebody should look for that somebody in the neighborhood might be cooking up meth in the basement or something like that?
Lots of trash, lots of different trash, odors, chemical smells, and then you can even look for strange behaviors that somebody might be having walking around the house, strange hours, anything like that just wouldn't fall in normal routine. That might be something for somebody to start watching for.
Now, a drug that's been gathering a lot of headlines nationally, and mainly for the bizarre and violent effects that it has on people, is bath salts. What exactly are these drugs, and are we seeing them in the region?
Again, unfortunately, we are seeing them here in southeast Missouri. They are a crystal or a powder that's manufactured just basically, I've heard it described being cooked in a bathtub somewhere. Then they manufacture them and they market them as bath salts. They're not bath salts. These are not meant for human consumption. They put that on the label, but unfortunately, people are ingesting them.
And what are some of the effects that these drugs can have on people?
Number one is hallucinations. It's extremely, extremely dangerous. They can go completely off to where they're not even recognizing that they're in public, that they don't know where they're at. Then you start dealing with some of the other effects: major sweating, high metabolism. Their heart rate's going crazy. Those are just some of the obvious signs.
Now, one of the drug enforcement agencies in the region is the Southeast Missouri Drug Enforcement Task Force. Who exactly is this? Who is this organization under?
The task force is a conglomeration of lots of different agencies. Highway Patrol has people assigned to the task force. Our police department has officers assigned to the task force, the sheriff's department, and then there are officers that are strictly assigned to the task force. A lot of that is paid with grant funds, state funds, as well as department funds as well.
What about education? What does the Cape PD do to educate the public and educate youth about the dangers of drugs?
A lot of number one is the DARE program. We still have our DARE program here in Cape Girardeau. Officer Luther Bonds is our DARE officer. Does a fantastic job going around to the schools and teaching these kids. But our officers themselves are also educated to help teach. That's part of our job as well. We go around and we see a lot of kids on a day-to-day basis, summer times, and we have interaction with those. So even our officers are still trying to educate those kids.
Let's talk a little bit about some other law enforcement issues in Cape Girardeau. Counterfeiting was something that came up last year. Is this at all a common occurrence that counterfeiters pop up here in southeast Missouri?
You know, sometimes it kind of seems to go in waves. We'll have several for a couple of months, and we'll have several bills be passed throughout the city, different stores, different venues, and then it kind of seems to go away for a little bit. So which kind of leads us to think that there's a group of people that they're either passing through, or they get caught, or they just kind of move along. So we kind of expect those trends, but you just never know.
What are some of the telltale signs of a counterfeit bill?
Obviously the ink is the number one, and if it doesn't look right, then it probably isn't right. But you got to look for watermarks and things like that, and if you don't see those, then it's definitely something to take a look at, or have an officer come out and take a look at it.
Recently, we had several counterfeiters in the region, and that seems to have passed over at this point. Correct?
That is correct. I know that the federal government was doing some investigation with those, and I know they got several people in custody, and were able to prosecute those people as well. So that has helped curb some of it, because they were in several towns throughout the city, throughout southeast Missouri.
Let's talk a little bit about identity theft. What are some of the things that people should do to guard themselves, against having their identity stolen?
Identity theft is something that we're seeing more and more. It's the federal government says that it's millions and billions of dollars every year that people are losing. Be vigilant. Be vigilant in watching your accounts. Be vigilant in watching your credit history. Be careful of where you use your identification, where you make sure you keep it close by you. As long as you do these things and you catch it in a timely manner, then it's real easy to stop it from expanding, and hopefully not lose a ton of money on that.
What are some of the challenges in tracking down folks that are stealing folks' identities?
Well, that's exactly what it is. They've stolen an identity, so it makes it very difficult to try to track that person. They have tried to assume somebody else's ID. So when you try to track them, they may be using somebody else's identity. So it makes it very difficult for our investigators to try to move along those paths that they're moving.
Well, while we have you here, I want to get an update on the laptops that have been installed in the Cape Girardeau PD squad cars. How's that going right now? Has that been bearing fruit so far?
It has. It's been a great and positive thing for our department, and we're even moving further into that. Hopefully here in the next month or so, going to be purchasing some more laptops, and hopefully complete the full implementation across our department, where all of our Marked Patrol units will have a laptop and be up and running just in the next couple of months.
Briefly again, what are some of the benefits of this new technology for police work?
It's exponential. It can grow just by every little thing that the officer can do. They can write their reports, they can run their state requests, things like that, and then that also leads to other ways that they can complete their jobs.
We've been talking today with Officer Darin Hickey with the Cape Girardeau Police Department. Officer Hickey, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.